This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back to the show. We are excited to have our event planner at Events by Shaun, Rajah, joining us live today from Chicago, Illinois, to talk more about the amazing work he does. And boy, oh boy, if you haven't met him yet or heard, let me just tell you a little bit about him. Or I'm going to ask the man himself to tell us, because you really are like one of the biggest principal planners and like the best, I'm going to say. Tell us a little bit about your company and what it is you do, sweetheart.
You're very kind. Thank you for having me. How are you doing this morning?
Fantastic. A little chilly here. We had some snow. It was beautiful. I'm happy today. You?
Yes, I had a back-to-back wedding of the weekend, so I'm starting off slower this morning, but it is chilly. I took the little pup out for a walk, but yes, it is chilly. Even he walked back in really quick, so that's great.
Uh-huh.
So thank you for having me again. I had a great time the first time around, and so yes, I'm based in Chicago. I've been here since 2004. As I mentioned previously, worked in prominent hotels in the city, including the Drake and the Langham. And I kicked off my event planning firm several years back. We don't only just focus in weddings, we do social events, holiday parties, branding and activation, and vendor management. So it's a whole realm of events that we do host.
Got it. And by the way, you spent over 15 years working at the Drake Hotel, widely regarded as Chicago's most iconic and popular wedding destinations. And you really played an integral role in producing countless high-profile weddings, social events, and most recently, you were part of the Langham in Chicago, which consistently ranked as the number one hotel in Chicago. So you really have an experience beyond in luxury hospitality service, excellence, large-scale event execution. So I just want people to know who they're working with, because you really create events that are intentional, personal, effortlessly sophisticated. And with your background, obviously on the hotel side, gives you such a different and unique and valuable perspective. So I love that, you're here helping so many and collaborating with teams and vendors. And again, events across Chicago, the US, and internationally. You are also known for I'm going to say your sense of humor, because that's true, your calm presence, meticulous planning, and relationship driven approach. And it's exciting to have you back here today to talk more about how you are helping, so many. And I know last time we did a little, we had a great show, but I still want to, go back a little bit and talk a little bit about what do you focus on in your work. Before we do that, also during the show today, if you do have any questions, unfortunately, our telephone lines are down, but I'm going to send out an email if you're interested. It's let's talk at globalpnws.com. That's let's talk at globalpnws.com. If you have any questions as we go along for Shaun. So in the meantime, let's get started. So what do you focus on in your work?
So certainly, thank you. So I definitely focus on hospitality first. I think creating experiences that feel effortless for guests and helping
Mm-hmm.
people slow down. But as I always say, the word flow is important. There has to be a reasoning, there has to be a continuation. So the flow of any event has to be effortless.
And would you say, as a young boy, your inspiration, how did you get here?
So, yeah, so I grew up actually in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I've been here, as I said, for the last 24, 25 years. As a young boy, I was definitely inspired by my mother, who raised me most entirely on her own, but with the support of my aunt. So, and watching her, I think juggling several jobs, and still till today, I can't figure out how on earth she did it. Growing up, I grew up watching sitcoms like Growing Pains, Family Ties, and many popular sitcoms, which inspired my dream to come to America. But there's another reason why I've always wanted to come to America. And believe it or not, it had nothing to do with hospitality. It was all about music. My father was a big fan of Whitney Houston, and he started introducing her to me, and he bought this beautiful vinyl records, but we couldn't touch it. We only could hear it while he was at home. There was strict instructions, and I started vocal lessons when I was a kid. So I had one of those stage moms who would run me around, and she's like, "Yes, let's go for this." And I remember actually auditioning for a song in Hindi And I didn't speak a word of Hindi, but I just memorized the song and I went for it. And they were like, "Yes, you got the part." And I'm like, "No." But funny enough that I didn't know what I was singing, but I did eventually because they had to do a shoot around it, and they took me to the zoo and placed me right next to an elephant. The song was related to a boy's love for an elephant. It was a scary moment, but I went through it.
Always comical. I said that before. You do. Okay. Oh, what else, Shaun? This is great. I love your history, your background, your work, your obviously a lot of obstacles you also had to overcome, right? But tell us a little bit about that resilience of growing up and some of the shows you used to watch, right?
Yeah. So I think, just like anything else, obstacles are definitely part of reality. We all go through it. Nothing is ever easy, but coming to the US from a third world country has its challenges. At one point, I remember that right before I left, the HR director at the Drake said, "I think we won't be able to get you here. There's some visa restrictions." Rather than saying, let me thank you very much for this opportunity. Have a great day. I said, let me look into this. And I called the American embassy, I remember, and they were like, "Nope, you're good. We have everything we need. You're good to hop on that flight." So these are the things that sometimes when I recall, should I have said, thank you so much. It was, thank you for trying. And I didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me wonder, like, what if I did not do that? Where would I be
Yeah.
today? So yeah, it's part of life, but my persistence and paid off. And over the last 24 years being in the business, I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet clients like Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Jennifer Hudson, just to name a few. And each opportunity came from just showing up, staying resilient, and believing that I had a dream and I had to work hard to fulfill it.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. I love hearing this. What a success story. And family must be so proud, right? But a lot of obstacles as well, right? And who are some of your mentors? And are you still mentoring today?
So the way I look at it, I have so of course my mentor will always my mentor was my mother. Okay. Beyond that, everyone I've worked with, including colleagues, I do keep in touch with the gentleman that was the main reason I had moved back to the US. He was the hotel manager at the Hilton in Kuala Lumpur. He's from Calgary. He lives in Calgary.
Oh, wow.
Ian Lachlan Jones, great guy. Funny enough, um, I always remember his birthday. He was born on January 5th, had the same date as my father, but my father was never really in the picture. Um, but beyond that, I think everyone I've worked with, including colleagues, team members, and those who work under me, have taught me something. I love mentoring others now, and I consider myself strict and straight to the point. But when
Hmm.
I'm at work mode, it's strictly work, and I don't come out as mean, but I'm just like I'm on the go. And I love when my sometimes when I see my staff chatting, I'm always like, "What are you guys up to?" They're like, "Oh, we're just catching up." I'm like, "No, let's fly away. Let's let's just talk to your clients. Let's talk to guests. That's what we're here for. And that puts a smile to my face because they're young and they're building their careers, and I'm fortunate. I have a great team who don't get enough credit, but I do know they know that I appreciate them, and they all have professional jobs, but they do join me
Yeah.
on weekends, and but I'm most likely expanding my team as well. I'm not going to be a team of 10.
Okay.
I am most likely expanding, bringing in one or two to just cater for the additional business that I'm getting, because of course I can't be in
Yeah.
every spot at the same time, but bringing in these two experienced um, team members in my team will definitely help me get my word out there and get my work out there. So it won't be more than three my company.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing this. This is exciting work. And by the way, like I mentioned, I want to remind everyone to have any questions as we continue to go along. Let's talk at global pnws.com. Let's talk at pnws.com as we continue here with our good friend. And let's dive in a little further now, if we can, about really, I mean, we kind of talked about the start with Whitney Houston and the how you moved to the U.S. and what happened. But do you want to talk a little more about that today as well?
Yeah, and so And by the way, I do also I haven't had a chance to sing at a wedding yet, might be not yet, but I do occasionally sing. And it's funny that people think I look like Prince. I don't think so,
Yes,
but
yes.
fortunately I've had a chance to meet him twice. And so there was a time I went in for Halloween, I went in as Prince, but I think a guy had too much to drink and he said, "Oh my God, it's Little Richard." I'm like, "Who?" I'm like, "No, I don't look like Little Richard." But yes, music has always been a big part of my life. As I said, I grew up with music and being an influence. Professionally, I worked at the Hilton Kuala Lumpur before transferring
Hmm.
to Chicago. And prior to that, I lived in South Carolina for 2 years. So I introduced myself to the Drake. I was running their famous tea room for multiple years. And what really put me on the map is when Kate Middleton and Prince William had got married. So, as you probably know, the royal family used to always stay at the Drake Hotel. Even Princess Diana was there in 1996, a year before she
Yeah.
passed. So I decided to come up with an idea of, we just said, let's do the viewing party for the royal family for the wedding. Initially they were a little skeptical, and I'm like, trust me, we have a following, and they will attend. So we actually had to do multiple tiers. It was just a viewing party. We had to stay overnight to record the entire wedding. People came, we called it tea hats and gloves. People came dressed in with their outfits. And I was interviewed on BBC Live. I was on the Today Show.
Uh-huh. Oh
So
my
that really put
gosh.
me on the map because, and I know it's just afternoon tea, but if you've not had a chance to visit their tea room, you should. It's very traditional, classic, beautiful harp music. And yeah, so, and after working there multiple years, I moved on to weddings and catering, and that's where my career started.
Beautiful. Hold on. We do have an email that was just sent in. Hold on. It's pinging.
Okay,
Give me 1 second. All right. This is James from Dallas, Texas, saying, "What's the most unique event theme you've ever worked on?" All right, James. What is? Sean, tell us
good.
what is the most unique?
James. Well, I had a wedding last night, but I can't talk about it because
Oh, I
it
love these.
is it is going to be out soon. So I can't tell you whose wedding it was or where it was and so on. So, but it's secret. But nevertheless, I'm actually planning a wedding. It's actually in a library in Chicago, the library in LaSalle. So what I'm doing is because we're doing actually a speakeasy theme. So as guests are walking into the elevators, we have artists sort of like body painted so they look like they're part of the elevator. They'll be holding a glass of champagne, but when they walk into this room, they have a concierge having a key that each guest will get a little key with their names on it. They have to open the door and walk into the space. Because it is
Oh,
a library, we're hiring a librarian who will then guide the guests to their bookshelves where they pick up their books. Each of them have an individual book, and they have when they open the book, it has a little note from the couple and telling them why they're so happy they're there. And then, so that's just an introduction. I work with themes, I work at venues. So that's because it's a library themed event. We did that. I've had an, um, an 80th birthday party inspired by Moulin Rouge.
oh
But
wow.
yeah, that was fantastic. But at the same time, we did a petting zoo for cocktail hour. So we brought in live safe animals, of course, during that cocktail hour. And I'm planning another one in the suburbs in September this year in Chicago, where we're doing a cocktail hour inspired by automobiles, like so
Wow.
really luxurious cars. So let's see what else I can. I've seen it all. So you caught me off guard. Like most unique, um, you know, yeah. I think those are some of my unique ones. Of course, weddings on some people even get married on New Year's Day. Can you imagine after a night of partying, you're getting married on New Year's Day? Yes, people show up. Might be a little
That's got to be
hangover.
hard. Yeah, I'm like,
Yes,
whoa.
but yeah. But there are times I could tell you stories about. I remember I had a wedding once where the stepmother wasn't like included as part of the wedding because they just didn't want her to walk down the aisle. And believe it or not, she wore white. And as soon as the music started, she came out of nowhere and she walked down the aisle by herself. It's funny. That's why I said someday I would love to pencil a note down on things that I do. things I've seen and experienced. James, I hope that that little
Helps.
introduction answered your
Yep.
questions. But I think, unique takes me from everyone's wedding is unique and different. But
Yeah.
I do love to personalize each wedding. Yes, I refer decorators and I work with florists, but I tend to get a little bit more involved because 10 years ago and now,
Yeah.
it's a whole different experience. People want an immersive
Well, yeah,
experience.
you say weddings are no longer an event. Our topic for today, they're a full
Yes,
hospitality experience. Yes.
yes. Thank you, James, for listening in.
Thank you. All right, guys. Anyone, keep the emails coming. So let's talk. As you mentioned, couples aren't just hosting weddings, they're hosting their guests. Food and music matter, but hospitality is what people remember. So let's talk about some story points here, right? So when you evaluate a venue, what are you looking at? What are you looking for?
So that's important. So when you evaluate your venue, you just don't look at the beauty. You look at the overall flow. I know I use the word flow quite a bit. So it's from the arrival, and let's say if it's in a hotel, the check-in process, the valet, all these matters. It's not just about, yes, food and music are the most important elements of any wedding celebration. And even long gone are those days where people say, oh, it's just wedding food. No, not anymore. Wedding, I love to see when all my plates are clean and everyone has eaten the entire meal because it's a gourmet experience. When I do a tasting, people say, oh, let's just go something which is safe for everyone. I said, no, this is the time you want to tell. If you want to be safe, you stay at home and have a meal. This is the time you want to say, hey, let's do this. And these days, kitchens, hotels, venues can cater for any sort of allergies, dietary requests, vegans, just name it. But there's so many things that matter. For example, let's take a hotel as a good example. Where is it located? Is it in a prominent location? How about arrival of guests? How many guest rooms do they have? Do you have other hotels close by? Because what if the hotel is on a higher
Yeah.
scale? You
Yeah.
want to have to provide guest options with additional accommodations, and how guests are greeted. Do they still have turn down service? What time is check in? And I say what time is check in because I laugh about this because check-in time is 3 o'clock worldwide. Okay, we all know that. But many cases, bride and grooms, they always want to check in early on Friday. So my solution to this
Yeah.
is you might want to come in on Thursday. That's the best way for you to get in. Why? You want to stay in the same room. You don't want to feel rushed because the way to look around this, okay, if the hotel occupancy the night before is full and checkout time is 12, we need 2 hours to clean each room at
Hmm.
least, especially in a suite. So that puts you at 2 p.m. So if you have hair and makeup for rehearsal dinner, my suggestion is check in on Thursday, you would be at ease. So as I said, there's so many different elements of when you're looking at a venue. And transportation, logistics, valet flow, bus arrivals, departures, signage. You can have the biggest signage in the world right in front, and people will still cross by it and say, hey, do you know where the wedding is? So I believe in manual interaction. I always love to put my team members and my team downstairs, upstairs. So when people come in, they're like, hi, here for the wedding? Up the stairs, around the corner, give them direction. People, one thing I love to do is I love to start parties with champagne, sparkling wine, white wine. I don't like to pass red wine. I never do because someone may come in and just accidentally I mean, have an accident, and the next thing you know, the red wine is on my bride's dress. So, standard of service, I always do white wine, sparkling water, champagne, and that also alleviates lines at bars. We always want to add an extra bartender for cocktail hour. Why? People gravitate to something they're comfortable with. So the ladies are going to grab that first cup, white wine or champagne, and the guys will go to the bar. But when you have many people like servers standing and offering these services, your lines at cocktail hour
Yeah.
will be less. And once
Wow.
everybody gets a drink, that's all I care, because you always want to be able, I always tell my team, keep going. And I always have them walk from different entrances. In many cases, and I personally do it myself, if I know that lamb chop came out from room 4, that at that door, I would be standing right there because every time the platter of lamb chops comes out, I want to be the first person to grab that lamb chop. But here, what we do is I always say rotate because we want every guest to feel like they've got something to munch on.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I love hearing this. We got another email. Hold on one second. Bing. This is anonymous. Okay, it just says, What's the one thing people always forget to plan for that ends up causing stress?" It's a good one.
Oh, it no, there's more than one thing. So I mean, these are good questions. Thank you. I like that. Um, so for the bride's perspective, bustling your dress. I always tell my brides, okay, one thing, make sure you videotape that whole bustle process because there's so many
Hmm.
different kind of bustles, okay? So, and I said, send it to me because once the ceremony is done, my team and I happen to be the ones who are going to be bustling. Or you hire a wedding dresser. A wedding dresser is someone that comes in and stays with you for the entire process. I work closely with an English lady here in Chicago. She reminds me of Mary Poppins. She is English, and
Aw.
so she's there throughout the entire process. So I tell my brides, if you want a stress-free experience, this is a great person to hire. Why? She walks in the morning, she steams all your dresses, helps you get dressed, and should something happen, oh, my dress is torn, I need this. Can you help me bustle? She's there the entire time. She only walks away when you've started the party and she know her work is done. So that's one in terms of brides, the couple. Of course, my grooms, I always tell them, make sure you have an extra shirt. Have an extra shirt because if you're sweaty, if I need to change, get you a change, absolutely. Also, do me a favor, grooms out there, make sure you check your call-ins the week of the wedding. I've had an instance where I had to run off to Hugo Boss to get another shirt because they did their fitting a month ago, and when the wedding day arrived, the shirt couldn't fit. So we had time. So I ran and got another shirt. So always bring a second shirt and make sure you try. Make sure you get your shirt fitted the week off as well. Is it's important. I'll tell you something. I always tell my grooms and groomsmen to say, make sure you're wearing your tuxedo pants and undershirt. It clearly says undershirt. And when I walked in, they were all in their underpants. And I'm like, guys, you should be ready. They're like, well, you told me underpants. I said, no, no,
Oh,
no. I said
oh,
undershirt. No one
ah,
needs to photograph you with your underpants.
I
Yes.
can't. I can't. This is so funny.
Yeah. So these are like two things. But let's talk quickly about the venue. When you look at a
Sure.
venue, right? As a courtesy, you want to, if you're inviting someone to, regardless, let's say it's a venue or a hotel, you want to be able to secure complimentary room blocks. You don't want to sign an attrition, meaning you don't want to be responsible for these guest rooms if they are not
Yeah.
taken. People have different brand loyalties. People want to stay anywhere they want to stay. But as a courtesy, you need to tell them, by the way, these are the hotels that we recommend, and they have offered us a reduced rate. That's important. If you're inviting guests over, you need to provide them with different options. Then, if you're having an event at a venue and your guest is staying in a hotel, it's customary that you have to provide them transportation. It's the right thing to do, especially like a wedding event in the month of January, February, March. Yes, what if it's cold and chilly? We all want to get to the right spot at the right time. So I think it's courtesy of the couple to do so.
Yeah. Wow. All right, well, let's continue because we'll wait for more emails, please. If you are interested in reaching out to us today, unfortunately, the lines are down. So let me just share one more time. We're sending everything to, please, global. Let's talk at globalpnws.com. That's let's talk at globalpnws.com. In the meantime, let's continue the conversation. We have so much more to talk about. Did you want to dive into a little bit about the rise of, the content creators and visual culture? Because this is big. This is everywhere now. It's very visual, right?
Absolutely. And weddings have become highly visual, and that has changed how people plan everything. So today weddings are experienced twice, once in real life and once online. 10 years ago, you hired a photographer. Today, we are curating content. I think post-COVID, this has become a big trend. Just just over the weekend, I had a content creator as well. But you see, it's a different perspective.
Yeah.
So some couples just hire a photographer and they hire a content creator. And these content creator provide content via an iPhone, and it's within 48 hours. It's incredible. Like, I love to delegate. And I'm like, yes, I need this from this angle. I love to do all that, but there's no way I have the patience to move around, and nor do I have enough data space. But there's some great content creators based in Chicago. Lenovia Creations is the one I worked with over the weekend. Social Bright Collective is another, and it's been building. The momentum is building. I did a beautiful wedding at the Art Institute of Chicago from this company called From Someone. So these details exist because weddings are now more immersive. Can you imagine you videotape the entire wedding in an iPhone? That's going to be valid from now to forever. Of course, those days when our parents got married, it was on a VHS, and they'll put us through this every time we get back home. They're like, let's watch the wedding video, and it was 2 hours long, So it is trending. I think it's a key detail. And especially if you're very social, you're active on Instagram, Facebook, I think hiring a content creator is a great way to delegate things. It's a great way to handle some of the things that a photographer or videographer may have missed. Never in my case, because we always use a checklist, but I'm just saying in general.
No. Also, we got another email. Hold on. Ding, ding. 1 second. I've lost my train of thought. Okay, here it is. It's the page. This is from Janice in New York. How do you handle last minute issues on the day of the event?
Great question. So being in the business for all these years, we tend to anticipate things.
Yep.
I'll give you some examples. Let's talk about, okay, when people walk in, let's say their seating has been assigned. It's a common thing culturally, especially in Indian weddings, where they tend to want to move.
Yeah.
In this case, I'm always on site, or I have a team leader who's on site. These things, on my end, what we do is guests are listed by alphabetical order on the seating chart. So it's easy for them to look at it and get to their table. On my end, I also have them by table number in alphabetical order. So my team is waiting at the entrance so that people are coming, they get to seat, they know exactly where they're seated. Let's say fish. We tasted a halibut, but the halibut that came in that morning wasn't good. We're not going to serve that. So what happens? We can't go from a halibut to a salmon. So the kitchen or the venue has to handle the additional cost due to this. So we have to give the guest sea bass, So there are little things. So these are the things that happen behind the scene. Or last minute, let's say late night snack was outsourced. It didn't make it. So I'm not going to tell my bride, by the way, we don't have late night snack. I'm just going to go ahead and tell the venue, hey, we need, let's start off with 80 mini burgers and 80 French fries. Let's get this going. We'll talk about the payment later. Getting things organized. And I never tend to tell the bride and groom anything until after the day off. I've had weddings, sadly, that not recently, but not a couple, but two of the guests decided to get a little bit into a heated argument.
Oh, gosh.
And of course, they called the smallest guy in the unit, in the building, to come. They say, hey, Shaun, I think the couple's having an argument. I'm like, great. Why are you calling the smallest guy? These two guys are massive. So I know, of course, I have to go up to him and say, hey, sir, can I have a moment with you? I move them out. Same goes for intoxication. We don't tell the couple, hey, your cousin has had too much to drink. We bring them out. We remind them, this isn't your wedding. So number one, let's go down. Let's get you some coffee. Let's start this right. You can still come back and party. Drinking responsibly is key. These are the little things, but there's a lot of different minor things that we just do. Let's say we had a menu card printed out, but it was flimsy. It couldn't sit on as what the bride wanted. I got to make that choice.
Okay.
I had a wedding at the Botanical Garden, which happened to be in June last year, where it happened to be such a humid day. It was humid, extremely humid, and windy. Okay. So all the flowers kept on falling down. So to the point, the bride was quite persistent, wanting me to say, "Oh, are you sure we can't keep this?" I said no. And thankfully, not well, indirectly, the candles fell while she was there. And now I was trying to explain to her, and I said, "No worries." So I remember the florist I worked with at that weekend was Yanni Designs, and they actually went back to their storehouse, their storeroom, brought me new vases which were heavier,
Oh, wow.
so that we could redo the flowers so that the guest experience wouldn't be altered. So these are one of the many things. And that's why, having dealt with this all these years in different scenarios, it does pay to have someone experience on site because, yeah, we have done it before. We make a lot of last minute changes. It's normal, but that's what we're here for.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And unfortunately, we're out of time. Yeah, we still have so much more to talk about, but I'm glad we had some people write in. And well, we're gonna have to. Oh my gosh, there's still so much more to talk about. We don't have enough time, as always. Hospitality over excess, what guests truly need. We're gonna have to talk about that next time and more. The Taylor Swift, we're gonna have to get to next time. Oh my goodness, it's 1:35. I'm so sorry. We must go.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Always good to see you.
You
And
too,
I will
sweetheart.
see you. I have always wanted to say this. See you same time, same place next week.
Perfect. But hold on. Contact
Yes.
information. You didn't tell us. How do we get you?
My website is www.shaunrajah.com, and that's ShaunRajah.com. And my Instagram is events by Shaun Rajah.
Beautiful. Thanks again. See ya.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.